Distinguished Toastmaster PJ Kleffner has been a Toastmaster since 2001. He is a charter member of Babylon Toastmasters and has served in every club officer role and in numerous district officer roles. While serving in district officer and speech contest roles, PJ has deep and valuable experience. He is regularly consulted for his practical expertise about conducting speech contests for members' clubs and district enhancement in real life. PJ has the distinct honor of being the District 7 Chief Judge this year. So he is the man with all the answers. So please join me in welcoming Distinguished Toastmaster and Chief Judge, PJ Kleffner.
Thank you all for being here. Here's what we're going to talk about. First of all, are you eligible to be a judge? Because not everyone is. Then I'm going to point out the differences between a judge and an evaluator, because there are significant differences. There's a lot of paperwork. I'm going to talk about how to eliminate bias, talk about some of the do's and don'ts, some common myths, and then occasionally you will be asked to be a chief judge. So I'm going to throw on the extra credit bits there for that. So first off, eligibility. It varies at the different levels of contests. At the club contest, you have to be a paid member and have a pulse, basically, and you can be a judge. When you get to the area, division, and district contest level, you need to be a paid member for at least 6 months. So you can't walk in as a visitor to a contest and they say, oh, here, fill out an application. You're now a member and you're a judge. Nope, can't do that. You have to be in for 6 months. You have to have completed at least 6 projects in the CC manual or levels 1 and 2 in any path. And I see Lyle has his hand up already. Question, sir?
Yeah, I just want to know where do we go to find out if they've done 6 projects in a CC manual?
That is an interesting challenge now, isn't it? Because most of us who have done this, any kind of contest before, we have run into this. If they haven't submitted a CC manual, and of course they can't anymore, but if they never submitted one, how do you know how many projects they completed? Well, the only solution I can offer is you go to that club's vice president of education and ask them to certify that that person has done 6 speeches. Does that work? That's how I've handled it.
But that vice president probably wasn't around when they're working on CC manuals.
Well, you know, if you've got somebody that I hate to be this way, but if you've got somebody that their only qualification is they've done 6 speeches in a CC manual and they haven't done anything since that, do you really want them to be a judge? Okay. Just saying, you know? Okay. But they can if that's all they've done. And then the other issue at area, division, and district contests is that you have to be physically present. No more online or hybrid contests above the club level. Our Babylon contest we did last night was a hybrid. I wish it were just an in-person contest. It would have been so much easier. But we did a hybrid because we do hybrid meetings. And area and above, we're back in person. Now that's great for the contestants. They get to feed off the energy and all of that from the audience and the feedback from the audience. So that's great. But it does present some new challenges for us. As I said in my promo video for this session, we now have to get judges for every single area and division and district contest. And these judges need to be within some kind of reasonable travel distance to attend these contests. They're not going to be commuting from England or Thailand or wherever, okay? So moving on up in the hierarchy at the division or district level contests, you have to have all of the above, and you must not belong to the same club as any contestant. Now, any of you who have actually read the rule book, you might say, but PJ, it says that same thing for area level contests. You're not supposed to be a member of the club. But they've got the weasel words in there. They say, when practical, or if practical, however they say it. Because they realize that at area level, you're still maybe going to have some challenges getting enough people together to do to fill all of the roles. So they give you a little bit of leeway. Club contests, you can get away with a lot of things, but at the area level and above, you have to follow the rules a little more closely. And the division and district, it gets much stricter, and you do need to follow them. Okay. People who are not eligible. Now, here is where we have a contradiction in the speech manual or in the rules book. In the section that talks about who can be a contestant, it says any member who is competing or intends to compete at any level in the same contest type in any district cannot be a judge. Now, this part says candidates for elected district, or the second one there, candidates for elected district leader positions for the term beginning the subsequent July 1st are the people who cannot be judges. And that would include all the trio members, district director, program quality director, club growth director, and division directors. What about area directors? We don't elect. That is the key word there. We do not elect area directors. They are appointed. But getting back to this again, this says that you, I'm sorry, I forgot part of the important part of this part. Important part of this part. My goodness. Okay, reset. This says at any level in the rule book for the judges and on the judge's certificate of eligibility, we'll see this later, it says above the club level. So there's a contradiction because this says any level and the other place it says above the club level. So I think in order to prevent anybody from being disqualified, we need to take the strictest interpretation of this. So as chief judge at the district level, I would want people who did not compete at any level to be on my judging team. Okay? Difference between judging and evaluating. As a judge, you have one job. And believe me, some people don't get that, but you have one job. You are to pick a winner. You need to consider the content of the speech. And we'll talk about that when we look at the judging guideline and ballot. Content is a huge part of the score in the international speech contest. You do not provide feedback to the speaker. If the speaker comes up to you and asks you to, what would you think of my speech? Sorry, cannot comment. Talk to one of your fellow club members who is here if you would like some feedback. As an evaluator, your number one job is to provide feedback. And that feedback should be in a positive and motivational manner. So you're trying to keep the person from, you're trying to encourage the person rather to do their next speech rather than scare them off. As an evaluator, you also focus more on delivery rather than content. Now, some of the projects do have you consider the content, but most speech projects, you're looking more at things about delivery, vocal variety, body language, gestures, organization, things like that, rather than the actual content of the speech. There's paperwork, paperwork galore. The first thing you need to sign, and I'm actually going to show you some of these and talk about them. The first thing you need to do is fill out the eligibility and code of ethics form and sign that and return it to the chief judge before the contest. I hate it when people show up, at the paper, they haven't done their paperwork yet and you're scrambling at the last minute. So please be nice, do that before the contest. There are separate forms for each type of contest. We always do the international speech contest at the district level every year. And we choose from one of the other optional contests. This year, we're doing the evaluation contest. So we will have those two particular forms we have to worry about this year. And then there's a separate tie-breaking judges guide and ballot for each of those two. Here's what the first of those forms looks like, the eligibility and code of ethics. Now, if you have a really nice chief judge, they will fill out all of this top bit and send this to you. So all you have to do is put your name, your membership number, and sign it and date it. Now, sometimes when I have time and I'm bored, nothing else to do, I've been known to even type in their name and put in their member number, and all they have to do is sign it and date it and send it back. But that's whether or not you have time. So here is this contradictory statement down here. Point number 4, judges for contests beyond the club level are not eligible to compete in the same contest type during the same contest cycle. So this is where it says it's okay to compete in a club contest, but above that you can't if you're going to be a judge. Whereas that other thing said you can't do it at any level. So contradiction, whatever. Here's what the International Speech Contest ballot looks like. And I trimmed the bottom part off and moved it over here just so I could blow this up bigger. This is the guide. This is what helps you determine the score for the person. Notice content is a whopping 50%. That's half the person's potential score. So the way I think about content, was this a great speech? Was this a good speech? Or did I just waste 7 minutes of my life I'm never going to get back? So this is the value of the speech. That's how you score that part. And there'll be more, I'm going to show you more about those various categories on the back of this form. Then delivery is 30%, language is 20%. These are more of the things that we typically address in evaluations. So you should be quite familiar with those. The voice, the manner, the appropriateness, the correctness of the grammar, and all that sort of thing. Here's the important part. Notice that it says right here, and that's being hidden by my, that I can read it from over here. It says you need to put a first place, a second place, and a third place winner, assuming there are at least 3 contestants. If there are only 2, you need to put first and second. You need to sign and you need to date. Last year, when I was chief judge at it was an area contest, one of the judges listed 2 people, first and second place. There were more than 3 contestants. After I had to throw that judge's ballot away because they only listed first and second. Afterwards, I took them aside and I said, why did you only put down 2 people? They said, well, because I know we have 4 areas in our division, so the top 2 people get to go up to the division contest. So I just listed my top 2 people. No, you list all 3 people. And then the top 2 winners are the ones that get to advance to the division level. So you got to put all 3 on there if you have at least 3, and you have to sign and date. When I'm the chief judge, when I do briefings, I generally suggest to the people that they go ahead and tear this bottom part off the ballot and sign and date it, or sign and print their name, and then stuff it in a pocket. After they determine the scores for all of the contestants and figure out who won, then you write down your first, second, and third place, and you hold that up for collection. That saves a lot of time. I've seen people trying to tear those things off at the end, and they rip the thing in half because they don't tear it straight, and then they forget to sign it, and it's just crazy. So I say, please, right now, sign, print, and tear it off, and saves time and hassle at the end. As far as how you actually score people, that is entirely up to you. These are suggested point values to help you. You don't have to use these. Some people put like plus marks. If the person does something really good, they'll put a plus mark. And if they repeat that behavior, they'll put another plus mark. So maybe they'll have 3 or 4 little plus marks in that box for this particular contestant. Names go up here, across here, and then you score the person down here. So you can do that. Some people put minus signs. If they do something wrong, they'll put a little minus mark or a tick mark or something. And then they just tally those up at the bottom and figure out who has the best score. I will admit there were times that I scored all of the people. And when I looked at the numbers down here, maybe I had this contestant with a 75 and this contestant with a 76. But I thought about it. I took a step back and I looked at these things and I thought, that one that I scored 75 gave me a better warm and fuzzy feeling. I'm going to put them as first and that other person as second. This is a guide. So it's just to help you pick the winner. And nobody sees this. And do not throw it away in the trash can at the contest location because people will rummage through and find it if they see you throw it in there. Take it home, eat it, tear it up. I don't care, but just don't wad it up and throw it in the garbage can there. This is confidential. You don't want to share this with anybody. So the point is, it is a guide. It is just a tool to help you figure out who your first, second, and third place winners are. And then you put those names on here and give that to the ballot counters as they collect those. On the back, there is more description about those different criteria. So I encourage you, each time I'm a judge, I always turn the paper over and I just refresh myself. I read through those so I have it fresh in my mind. Now the evaluation contest ballot. Notice it's a lot simpler, a lot less to consider. You know, for example, we don't look at the content. We're looking at the analytical quality of the presentation. Was it well organized? Did the person actually get the speech? And did they seem to relate to what was going on in the speech? And did they have a nice presentation, or did they meander around, wander around, and you couldn't follow what they were talking about? So analytical quality gets a big 40%. Then the recommendations. Remember, that's how we learn in evaluations. It's the recommendations that count. So if they didn't give any recommendations, they're probably not going to finish first, second, or third place. The way I used to do that is I would notice they have 30 points is the suggested maximum there. The way I would typically do that was I would put tick marks whenever they made a good recommendation, and I would give them 10 points for each tick mark. Or if it was kind of a weak recommendation, I'd give them 5 points for it. But I would give them 10 points for a recommendation. And if they gave 3, which is kind of tricky to do in a 2 to 3 minute evaluation, then they got the maximum points. Okay. Technique. Were they sympathetic, sensitive, motivational? Remember, we hear about I statements. I noticed you were fidgeting with your ring a bit. I used to get busted for this all the time. I noticed you were fidgeting with your ring rather than you look like you were nervous. So use the I statements, be sensitive, motivational rather than making them feel bad. And was it a speech? It's supposed to be an opening, a body, a close speech, a full-blown speech. So did they actually wrap it up with the summation and close? And again, you're trying to close in a positive manner and motivate the person to speak again rather than scare them off. Okay, same thing on the ballot. You list first, second, third, assuming there are at least 3 contestants. Sign and print your name, and you have to list all 3, right? Okay. And again, on the back, more details about the criteria. And we don't need to go through those now. You all read those when you're a judge. Here is the tie-breaking judge. And yes, you do need a tiebreaker. I've seen people say, oh, but we have 5 judges. That's not an even number of judges. So we don't need a tiebreaker judge. You can't have a tie with 5 judges. Oh, yes, you can. Because maybe this person gives them 3 points and this person gives them 1 point. And so they get a total of 4. And then these other 2 judges each give them 2 points. So guess what? Now you got 2 people that get 4. You know, so you can get ties. You do need a tiebreaker. The tie-breaking ballot that you tear off the bottom here has all possible speakers, and you rank all of them. You don't just say first, second, and third. You rank how many ever speakers there are. You rank all of them. And then the chief judge will use this to determine who the winner is if there is a tie. Worst case I ever had as a chief judge, I had the scores tallied up, and the top 2 numbers were tied. The next 2 people were tied. So I had to use the tiebreaker judge to break the tie between first and second. And then the one that was placed higher on the tiebreaker's judge became first. The other person automatically became second. Then I moved on to the other 2 people. Whichever one was placed higher on the tiebreaker's judge became the 3rd place winner. And the fourth place winner, you did a great job, but sorry, better luck next time. I have seen some things go wrong with this. One time there was a person who was looking at this, and they said, okay, well, I've got these two people tied, and those two people that are tied, this person ranked one of them third and the other one sixth, but their first place is this person, so the first place winner is this person. No, no, that's not how this works. What you do is whoever is ranked higher on the tiebreakers judge wins the tie. Okay? So I've seen, trust me, I've seen just about everything go wrong that can go wrong in a contest. I've seen people do all sorts of crazy things. All right, biases. We don't want to have biases when we're judges, but some of them are unconscious. We don't even know we have them. Uh, some we do know we have, and so we have to be sure we don't let those influence our judging. Speaking order. It's very common that the first place person and the last place person has an advantage. The first place person might come out of the gate and blow your socks off, and you say, wow, that was a fabulous speech. And then you're comparing everybody to that. And part of that comparison is you're not giving that second, third, and fourth, and so on speaker your full undivided attention. You're thinking, wow, this guy's not as good as that guy. And while you're thinking that, you're not listening to what they're saying. So the way you overcome that is you give each speaker your full undivided attention. And then you let the scores speak for themselves. And I see Elgrid has his hand up.
Yes, I think there might be a little bit of confusion in the words you used. First place, last place, you're talking about speaking order, not how they actually place in the final standings.
Correct. Thank you. I'm talking about, the first person who speaks versus, the second person who speaks and third person. Thank you, Eldred. Yeah. Sorry if I confused anyone. I'm talking about the order in which the people are speaking. So then the first person often has an advantage in many people's mind just because that's the first thing you heard, boom, makes an impression. And then there's the relevance of the last person. That's the most recent thing you heard, and so that sticks in your mind. And so that person sometimes has an advantage. So think about speaking order, or don't think about speaking order. Ignore speaking order. Judge each person on their own merits. Past performance. Maybe you're at a division contest and you heard this person give this speech at the area contest, and you're sitting there listening to them and you're thinking, wow, they were much better at the area contest. They're really blowing it this time. No, 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 no. You're judging this contest. You don't worry about what that person did before, or you don't think about, oh, this person, I know them. They're a DTM. They should be doing better than that. No, you're judging this speech today. Nothing about anything you heard before or anything you know about that person. The halo and reverse halo effect. This could be where the person is giving a powerful message and it really resonates with you. And so you give them high scores all the way down the ballot. Never mind that their grammar sucks. You just give them, you've got this big glow and you're giving them high scores all the way down the line. So try to judge each individual criteria on its own merit. The reverse halo effect is the opposite. Maybe they're perfect speakers. They have a great vocabulary and they're delivering a wonderful presentation, except there's no message, or their organization is terrible. They're meandering around, wandering around. Well, you don't knock them down because of that. You give them a proper score in each of the categories. So there's the halo effect and the reverse halo effect. Don't let any one area influence how you score the other areas. Another common one is appearance. I remember when I first joined Toastmasters back in 2001, it was fairly common at division even, and certainly at the district level contests, the contestants wore suits. They wore fairly formal attire. Some even wore tuxedos. I remember at one particular contest, the man came out and he was wearing like blue jeans and a work shirt and all of that. Well, as it turned out, he was making a speech that had something to do with like his blue collar job. And in effect, this was like a costume or a prop. But some people, I heard people talking. I said, gee, would you come straight from work? Don't you feel like you could like, clean it up a little bit before you come to your contest? And they just didn't get it. So, think about that whole picture. All right, finally, personal feelings. Oh my gosh. How many speeches have we heard recently? Maybe not in Toastmasters, but certainly on the television. Uh, Climate change, reproductive rights, trans athletes. Pick your topic. It shouldn't affect how you judge your own personal feelings on a particular topic. Your job is to think about the speech. Did this person give a well-organized, well-presented speech, and score them accordingly? Don't let your own personal biases or feelings get in the way of that. Okay? Do's and don'ts. I can't harp on this enough. Print your name and sign your ballot. I cannot tell you how often I've received ballots that weren't signed. It just like, pounded in. Maintain confidentiality. You do not share how you voted with anyone. You do not provide feedback to the speakers. And ideally, you are confidential where nobody even knows you're a judge. But when you're the person sitting there in the audience holding up your piece of paper and somebody comes around and takes your ballot, doesn't take a genius to connect the dots. Protests can only be judged or lodged by contestants and judges. If you have a protest, be sure to notify the chief judge or the contest chair as soon as possible. And certainly before the contest is adjourned or the results are announced, because once they're announced, it's final. And the only basis for protests is originality, has to be let's see. Now I said less than or equal to 75% of it must be, no, it should be greater than or equal to 75% has to be original. And I guess what I said when I typed that was less than, never mind. You can only quote up to 25% of other people. And if you do, you need to cite your sources or you can be disqualified. And this is a fairly recent rule that came out, it's been a few years now, but speakers are not allowed to refer to another speaker or anything in their speech in this contest. Now, this is confusing to some people. This is only in this contest. If you heard me say something really cool last week and you mentioned that in today's contest, that's okay. But if you say, oh, what the previous speaker just said about this, I really resonated with that. Nope, can't do that. And that is actually grounds for disqualification. It is not just you lose points, you are disqualified. All right? Do nots. Don't time the speeches. Not your job. And it will distract you from giving that speaker your full undivided attention. Don't provide feedback to the speaker. I already talked about that. And do not comment to anyone about any of the speeches. I've heard people going out of a contest talking to each other about, oh yeah, I thought speaker number 2 did a really fabulous job and yada, yada, yada. Or that speaker, I think they could have done this better. Nope. You keep your mouth shut. Everything's confidential. You do not talk about anything in that contest. All right. Some of the more common myths. International speech contest speeches must be inspirational or motivational. Anybody ever hear that one? No? That is not true. It's up to the speaker what their topic is. The speaker can't interact with the audience. Again, not true. The speaker can't use humor in their speech contest, in the international speech contest. Not true. And especially if their speech is a really heavy topic. I remember there were some years there where it was kind of almost a joke that to win the speech contest, somebody had to have cancer, and well, if you're going to have a downer of a speech, please break it up with a little bit of humor now and then. You know, you're jerking our emotions around, and you get us all on the verge of tears, and then you break the tension with a bit of humor. Okay, so that is a masterful presenter who can do that. So yes, please use humor in your speech. It adds to it, and it's wonderful. Some people think you can't use PowerPoint in a contest. While I highly recommend that you don't, and I have never seen anybody win a contest who used PowerPoint, and I've seen them go horribly wrong where the people can't get their PowerPoint working right and things go bad. So I don't recommend using PowerPoint, but there's no rule. You can do PowerPoint if you want. So again, all of those are false. If anybody has any others that you want to throw out there, anybody? Nope. Okay. All right. Oh, there's Lyle. Go ahead, Lyle.
Yeah, I got a question. What about artificial intelligence to write your speech?
I hadn't even thought about that, but I suppose, one
Or
of
to
these
improve your
years
speech?
that'll be in the rule book. Uh, they just haven't caught up with the technology yet. And I suppose that would be obviously that's something on originality. And each speaker does have to sign that certificate of originality. And going back to the core values about integrity, hopefully we don't run into that. But I'm sure somebody will try it someday. I actually was a judge at I think it was an area contest. And it was a humorous contest. I remember that. And the person got up there and gave this absolutely hysterical presentation. And immediately after, when we had the break and when the counters went off to the counting room, uh, people came up to me, like a half a dozen audience members came up to me and said, they just got that off the internet. I just got that by email from my friend, yada, yada, yada. And so I already mentioned that the only people who can lodge protests are contestants or judges. Well, when we got into the judging room, uh, the ballot counting room, yeah, all of the judges, they said, yeah, that's plagiarized right off the internet. And so the way you handle protests, by the way, is, and it's spelled out in the rule book, you call the contestant in to the private room, you interview them, you ask them about the situation, what's going on, what's going on, what's going on, and then you have the judges vote. And the vote is whether you disqualify them or not. And the majority rules. So in that case, we didn't even have to call that person in because she had left already. Now, I don't know whether she knew she was in trouble or what, but she bailed. She was gone. So anyway, yeah. Like I said, I've seen just about everything happen in contests. So that was one of them.
And a question, just to confirm, if
Go
you
ahead.
call the contestant in, you dismiss them before you do your judge voting.
Yes, I believe so. I don't know that for sure. I would have to actually look at that in the rule book again and read over that. Fortunately, I've never had to do that, so I don't know the nitty-gritty. But thank you for the question. And if you ever, I suppose we need to look at that if that ever comes up. And let's see, Lyle again. And Phyllis, you have your hand up too. Let's go with Phyllis.
I forgot to lower my hand.
Okay, yeah, Phyllis.
I can tell you that it happened at the international contest at the international convention. I was one of the judges, and we had a gentleman who eventually went on to become the international champion, but there was great questions about whether he was getting information from somewhere he shouldn't have. We did send him out of the room while we took our vote. We voted him forward. So just letting you know.
Thank you, Phyllis. I guess if that's how they do it at international, we can manage that at the district level. Thank you. All right, moving on. I was just getting to the point where I was going to say some of you might be asked to be chief judges for contests. There's a whole bunch of more things you get to worry about. So first of all, the chief judge is not a voting judge. And at area and above contests, they are very specific. You cannot do more than one job in a contest. And chief judge is a job. Voting judge is a job. Can't do both. Likewise, you cannot be the tie-breaking judge. The tie-breaking judge is known only to the chief judge. That means they don't even attend the briefings. Now, one thing we did on the online contests over the last few years is we just gave the chief judge a number, just like all the other judges, and they submitted their ballot, and it was the special ballot, and it didn't get used unless it was needed. But in-person contests, the tie-breaking judge is usually not known to anyone and is not in the briefings, and they discreetly slip their ballot to the chief judge when the time comes. Okay, it's the chief judge's job to brief the voting judges, the timers, and ballot counters, whereas the contest chair or a contest toastmaster briefs the contestants. And okay. And now, lots of forms, lots of paperwork. It's the chief judge's job to provide those forms. And now that we're in person, that means you got to get these things printed out, and you bring all these judges' forms and timer sheets and ballot counter sheets and all of those things. You have to bring those. You have to determine if there are any timing disqualifications. Now, I say that's your job as the chief judge. A couple years ago, when I was a chief judge for one of our online contests, we went into the breakout room. The timer said there were no timing disqualifications. And I said, no, you got to send me your timing sheet. They sent me their timing sheet. They put it in chat, the file in chat, and I opened it. And lo and behold, there was a timing disqualification. So, no, that's not the timer's decision. That's the chief judge's decision. And Eldred has his hand up.
Yes, I wanted to mention that several years ago, when I was a chief judge for an area or division contest, there was not then the restriction on the chief judge cannot be the tie-breaking judge. So I did take it upon myself to be the tiebreaker judge as well. And I would not recommend having your attention divided like that. So I'm glad that they've tightened up this rule and made it explicit that you can't do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to be the tie-breaking judge. You're the chief judge. That's your job. So never mind. Get somebody else for that other job. Thank you. Let's see. Determine timing disqualifications. Oversee the ballot counting. Oh my gosh. And I'm going to show you some of these forms and talk about some of the things I've seen go right and wrong with them. So you oversee the ballot counting. And as I mentioned, you use the tie-breaking ballot only if it's needed. And you manage the protests. And I already talked about how you do that. And then you also complete the results forms. There are two of them. The results form is the one that you fill out and give to the contest chair to announce the winners. And then the notification of winner form is the one that you send up to the next level in the competition so that they can contact those people and organize that contest. Okay, let's look at some of those forms. Here is the timing sheet. The contestants are listed and the minutes and seconds are listed. Down here we have the actual timing for these people or for each of these two contests, the International Humorous and the Evaluation Contest. It says a green signal will be displayed at 5 minutes and remain displayed for 1 minute. At my club, we are using paper or colored cardstock. And some of our timers, sometimes they'll hold the green up for a second or two, they'll flash it, and then they put it back down. And then they'll put the yellow up and put it back down. Nope, this says you put it up, you got to hold it up. And hopefully you have timing lights. Timing lights are much nicer. You get the light on, you leave it on until you get the next light on and so on. But we we covered that last night in my Babylon Club contest. You got to hold the thing up. Now, that poor lady that did that, she held the thing up above her head. I should have been more specific, I suppose. You don't need to hold it above your head for a full minute. No, you just, hold it up to where it's visible to the speaker. All right. So that's one thing there. And now I want to point out this fine print. In the event of technical failure of the signal or timing equipment, a speaker is allowed 30 seconds extra overtime before being disqualified. Back to my earlier comments where the timer told me there were no timing disqualifications, they don't make the judgment call here either. If there's a problem, they are instructed, you have a speaker's name here, and then you write a note here. You say, the timing light failed, we had to switch to the paper cards. Or had a whoops, didn't display the yellow until 15 seconds late. Whatever, you put a note there and explain what went wrong, and then you record their time, whatever their time is. And you do not take it upon yourself as a timer to, instead of putting the red at 7 minutes, they get 30 seconds extra grace period, so you don't give them the red till 7:30. No, you give them the red at 7. You give them the green at 5, yellow at 6, red at 7. But then it's the chief judge's job to interpret the comments and decide whether or not they get that extra 30-second grace period. Okay? So that's your job there. And you need to brief the timers on that, of course. Tell them to make a notes if there is a timing problem. The counting sheet. You list the judges down the side. You list the contestants up here. 3 points for first place, 2 points for second place, 1 point for third place. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen that go wrong. People put down 1 point for first, 2 for second, and 3 for third. Then when you add up the points, you got it all upside down. So that's why you have more than one counter, by the way. So people can check each other, and you make sure that you get 3 for first, 2 for second, and 1 for third. Then you sum up those points. And if you have any ties, I already talked about how you break the tie. You look at that tie-breaking ballot, and whoever is ranked higher on the tie-breaking ballot gets that position, whether it's first, second, or third. And then if you have to, you break the tie again until you get it all sorted out. Now, down here, I highlighted this because on the next sheet, you're going to see where I don't know whether this is Toastmasters' sense of humor, whether they're trying to trip us up or not, but you'll see what I'm talking about in a moment. You list down here your first, second, and third place winner. Okay? Now, the reason I point that out is on this form, they reverse it. Because this is the form that you give to the Toastmaster or contest chair to announce the results. And we announce the results in reverse order. So I've seen this happen where the person has first place, second place, third place. They don't look at that. They look at the names and they just copy the names, bang, 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 onto here. And now they're upside down. So something else to watch for there. And of course, their forms don't have these highlighted in yellow like mine are, so it's obvious. There's also the issue about timing disqualifications. If there is a timing disqualification, you check the box yes, or if there isn't, you check it no. You do not list the name of the person or persons who disqualified. You simply say yes or no on timing disqualifications. Unfortunately, it's often fairly obvious when that happens, especially if you only have 3 contestants and you announce second and first place winners. And well, guess what happened to the other one? You now know who the timing disqualification is. One time we had one of my club members at a humorous speech contest at the area level gave what was by far and away the most or the best speech. It was absolutely a fabulous speech, but she DQ'd on time. And so everybody's going, well, wait a minute, what about, that was obviously, I mean, she was just leagues above all the other contestants as far as her speech. It was fabulous, but she went overtime. Dave.
in a club contest, if you have only one contestant, do they have to give a speech?
Absolutely. If you have a contest. Now, you do not have to have a contest. If you only have one person who is willing to be a contestant from your club, you can just appoint that person and say, you're going to area. I do not recommend that you do that because you should give them the practice of working in that contest environment because a contest environment is different from a regular club meeting. Now, Eldred has his hand up, and I think I know what he's going to talk about or he's going to ask about here, but let me see if I can preempt him. That person has to meet the timing standard. If they disqualify on time, they are disqualified. They cannot go on to compete at the next level. And he actually shared an example. I'm going to take your thunder here, Eldred. He shared an example of where they had two people who both disqualified on time, and neither one of them could go up to the next level. Okay, Eldred, is that what you were going to say?
Actually, I was going to talk about something different.
Okay, well, go for it.
A question, you mentioned how the announcement order is in reverse order compared to the previous slide.
Yep.
But well, that could create a problem where the final results are announced in the wrong order. What happens when that happens? What can you do about it?
At that point, someone needs to, excuse me, because once the announcement is made and the contest is adjourned, results are final. So you want to head that off as soon as possible, and it's either up to the chief judge or one of the counters who realizes that this thing went bad can immediately interrupt and fix it. And you do want to do that. You want to fix that right then and there on the spot. The worst case I ever saw was the chief judge actually listed someone as the winner who wasn't even in the contest. And the person was on the list of contestants, but they no-showed. And the chief judge was having a bad day, shall we say, and listed on this list here one of the people that wasn't even in the contest. So yeah, things happen, and all we can do is laugh about them. But if that does happen, like you mentioned, Eldred, if they somehow announce them in the wrong order or the wrong person, then anybody who has inside information, and that would be the chief judge or the counters at that point, any individual judge should not know because they don't know how the other judges voted and so on. But anyway, anybody who has knowledge of that should interrupt and fix it.
So
Okay.
you're saying, I mean, if other judges don't know how the final tally was, it's only up to the chief judge to pay attention.
Or the counters.
Counters. Okay.
The ballot counters know how everybody ranked too.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
I've actually been in a club level speech contest where the Toastmaster announced the results out of order. It was very awkward for me to have to do this, but I did speak up and say, we need to correct that order.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. That sort of thing always is awkward. Yeah, that's a good word for it. But, it's better that you get it sorted out right there on the spot than don't let it come up later.
Speaking of technicalities,
Yeah.
What is the actual results? Is it what's on paper, what was counted, or what was announced? So it's okay if they mess up.
I have not, well, I have not seen that in the rule book, but hopefully what is on paper, and when I say on paper, I'm not talking about if somebody wrote them incorrectly on here. I'm talking about, the tally sheets that say this person is first, second, and third. And if it gets screwed up between there and what gets written on here, like I said, it's very common that people actually just list the names in the same order they were on that previous form, which flips them upside down. Then somebody needs to correct that. And obviously the correct results were the ones that were tallied up.
Thanks. Just making it hard, asking all these questions.
Yeah. Well, keep me honest, whatever. But it does say that once the results are announced and the contest is adjourned, that results are final. Now, if I found out after results were announced and that they were wrong, I don't know what to do about that. Dave, I saw you kind of go, oh, what? Any thoughts on that?
I think announce is final,
Yeah,
even if it's incorrect.
yeah, yeah. That's unfortunate, and we hope we won't ever do that. That's why we have checks and double checks and two counters and, yes. Please never do that. I don't ever want to see that. Okay, moving on. Notification of contest winners. This form you want to fill out and you sign this and or submit it to the next level's contest chair. And so what you're certifying here is that these people are qualified to participate in the next level contest. So if you're at a club, you're giving this to the area person. If you're an area, give it to division and so on. So you fill this out and you list all of the qualified candidates. So if somebody disqualified on time, they don't get on the list. All right. So this is only the people who are eligible to go up to the next level because they met all of the eligibility requirements. Now you list all the contestants here, not just first, second, and third. How many ever you had, you list them all that are qualified. And the reason for that is if the first place person can't make it, then whoever's contest chair at this higher level goes to number 2. And if they can't make it, they go to number 3 and so on until you get a candidate representing that particular area or division or whatever. Okay. And Dave's got his hand up again.
How many people from the club advance to the area?
Good question. Actually, that's not really up to the chief judge, or is it? I think that's a contest chair thing, but I will answer your question. In areas with 4 or fewer clubs, each club can advance 2 people. In divisions with 4 or fewer areas, which is pretty much all of District 7 this year, except I think Division H might have more than 4. But we have 3 areas in many of our divisions, unfortunately. But they can each send 2 people. Yep. And then, of course, we have more than 4 divisions, so only 1 person from each division goes up to district. All right. So in the case where you list all of the contestants here, our contest last night, for example, at Babylon, we only had 2 contestants in each of the contests, the international and the evaluation contest. They both qualified, all of the contestants, there were 3. 1 person was in both contests, and then we had 2 unique contestants. All of them qualified on time, so they all get to advance. Both contestants in each contest get to advance to our area contest. Okay. And that is all of my formal presentation. So we're at a Q&A session now. If you have any more questions, and my gosh, look what the time it is. We chewed up that hour. I'm going to stop sharing. And if anybody has anything they want to add, and Kristen, you have your hand up again?
Yes, I was going to say, do we know where the area contest is going to be so we can count the cost?
So you can, which count the cost, did you say?
Yeah, determine what's it going to cost us to drive there, to hours getting there, or if we offer anyone else.
Well, that's up to area directors to organize their contests. And I see Phyllis has her hand up. So unfortunately, I had to announce as the contest Toastmaster last night. We had a date for our area contest, but not a clue where it's going to be or what time of day. So there we go. Phyllis.
Yes, exactly what you said. The area and the divisions will decide where their space is going to be. Might be at a club, might be a space that you guys find. The district isn't handling any of that this year. However, I do have a question for you, PJ. As a district officer, can I or any division or any area director act as a target speaker?
good question. And I'm trying to remember all of this now because these rules change. I believe a sitting district officer can act as a target speaker, but if you're going to be a candidate for the next term starting next July, you cannot.
But we only know that, do people know this far in advance who's going to be next year?
You don't have to worry about this at a club level. A candidate for district office can be a model speaker or a test speaker. Yeah. Like I said, these rules they shift around. So thank you for that question, Phyllis. At club level, yes, anybody can be a test speaker for an evaluation contest. But at area and above, anybody who has declared their candidacy or who intends to declare their candidacy should not be. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that works. Maybe it's up to the district leadership committee to make that decision. Say I want to run for a division director or a trio position, but I want to be a test speaker, so I don't declare my candidacy just yet until after the contest. I don't know what you do about that. Oh, be quiet. Mike, you have your hand up.
Yes, the order that speakers, like who's going to speak first, second, and third, how is that done?
The way I did that last night was I took some cards from a deck of playing cards. I took an ace, a 2, and a 3, and I fanned them out and said, "Here, pick a card," and
Okay.
1, 2, and 3. You can also use, there's those picker applications where you can, and this is what we did quite a lot last year, or the last couple of years when we had the online contests. We used a picker wheel kind of thing where we entered the people's names and then you hit spin and it would, like Wheel of Fortune kind of thing, it would pick the person.
Thank you.
Yeah. Basically it's how I mean, you can do rock, paper, scissors, whatever works. And Dave, you have your hand up again.
Area contest schedule, division contest schedule, and district contest schedule. Are they published already? Are they on the calendar?
I looked on the calendar. I've seen a couple of division contests. I did not see any area contests listed. And of course, the district contest is going to be, or contests will be held at the conference in May.
Yeah, but okay, so area contest can be held when? And then
beats me. It's up to the area directors.
Oh, I believe this is the first day, this is the last day that they can be held is on the
Yes.
district calendar.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's also a page, contest resources page on the district website under resources or contests, and it does show the windows within which area contests and division contests can be scheduled. And I know the district contest will be part of the district conference on, is it May 17th, Leanna?
Yes, May 17th.